This is Sonnet 2, the rhyming couplet. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest cold. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest it cold. This were to be new made when thou art old, and feelest thy blood warm when thou art cold. So when you're old, something will be like reborn or made new again, and even though you're old, it'll feel pretty good. So the rhyming couplet of Sonnet 2 is some kind of encouragement. The last word of each line. I've got my mint tea. Ow, just spilt it. Brow field now held. Brow field. So like your brow maybe furrowed like a field. Lies, days, eyes, praise. So, I don't know, we praise your eyes. Maybe I tell lies in praising your eyes. Maybe I make out they're nicer eyes than you might think. Use or use, mine, excuse, thine. So, use, mine, excuse, thine. Not sure what sticks out there. Excuse. So, give apology for, make amends for, help with. It's something to do with this. Old, cold. Sounds like death. Okay, so now let's the next stage. Let's break it into its sections. So, the sonnet has the three quatrains, i.e. the groups of 4 lines, and the rhyming couplet. So it looks a bit like that. And I'm using this version of Shakespeare's sonnets. Okay, so the first quatrain ends in worth held, the next thriftless praise, the next succession thine, and the next is the rhyming couplet feelst it cold. Okay, so the fourth step is the breaths. So we mark the start and end, a little / does the job. Then we mark the sentence endings. So we're looking for full stops. Okay, full stops, question marks or exclamation marks. So the first after held, there's one after praise, end of the second quatrain, there's one after thine. Are there any more sentence endings within the lines? No. So you see it's pretty even. You've got full stops at the end of the quatrains. So you can see the pattern is emerging. And again, what we're doing here is we're not reading the sonnet, not yet. We're going through ways of getting into it, the 5 stages. Okay, so, but that only gives us really like 1 breath per quatrain, and that's not enough, so we're going to need more. Now, usually an even sonnet, we're going to get a breath every other line. And let's see, we've got commas at the end of field, days, not at the end of mine. Yeah, often the third quatrain is a little uneven, a little different. And with the quatrains, you normally get, here is my problem, quatrain 1, quatrain 2, and not only that, but it gets worse because of this. And then quatrain 3 is usually a solution to it. Or it can be, oh, and it's really, really bad, but often some kind of solution. There's some wasp type thing has just alighted on my bag. I don't know what he's doing there, but he's welcome to stay as long as he doesn't steal my mint tea. So we could try, because we've got the commas, let's just stick them in, and then on the third quatrain let's have a read. This much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou could answer, this fair child of mine shall. So we've got inverted commas, we've got some speech noted. So I think, even though they've incorrectly not put a comma before the speech, that will be where the breath is. And this is just all technical, all very technical. I've got even a Scouse tea bag going on there. Okay, so let's just try reading it and see if the breaths feel okay. And we mark the breaths according to according to the punctuation, which is the thought process laid down by the author, Mr. S. Shakespeare, and then we're looking for the sense. So if there's not a clear breath, but we need a breath, we break the sentence into its two halves. Okay, so when 40 winters shall besiege thy brow and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, fine. Thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be tattered weed of small worth held. That feels fine. Next quatrain. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes, were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. Okay, that seems pretty good as well. Now, the third quatrain. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use if it could answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. Okay, so because we've got this bit of speech within the sonnet, I think we can allow ourselves a third breath within a quatrain. That is almost unheard of. So we've got quatrain 3, we've got the breath before we begin, how much more praise, the breath before we say the speech, this fair child of mine, and then the breath before we say the final line after the speech. So, proving his beauty by succession thine. So let's just do that third quatrain. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use if thou could answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. Okay, then let's look at the last quatrain. Sorry, the rhyming couplet. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold. Okay, so we've got the breaths down. It's even up to the third quatrain, which is a bit uneven and a bit strange, but that's fine. So let's mark in the césures. The césure is the natural break within the line. So each line is made of two phrases, pretty much, 99%. To be or not to be, that is the question. So marking the césure stops you from taking stupid pauses where none are needed, like to be, or not to be, that is the question. You know, people break up the line and suddenly you're no longer really speaking English. So your job is to speak a sentence in English. You know, the actor should disappear and the story is the story. It's like, you know, who cares about George Harrison, but he played guitar on some great songs. Doesn't really matter. And like all the, you know, the great actors in Netflix, you don't think, wow, look at this actor I've never heard of, aren't they brilliant, I'm going to watch this show. No, you respond to the story. You can only be as good as the story. Obviously, the star system, or the branding of writers, the branding of directors, is a way to, it's marketing, it's just to cover their ass, you know. But, anyway. So, when 40 winters shall besiege thy brow. So when this does that, that's how we're doing it. Let's see. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches, césure, in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, and we've got a comma there on the césure, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauties lies, asked where all the treasure of thy lusty days, the treasure, césure, of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes. That's a tricky one. I would actually put it after say, which is really early in the line, and I'm probably wrong, but fair enough. To say within thine own deep sunken eyes, to say within thine own. You could have after thine own, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes. To say within thine own deep sunken eyes. It's maybe after within. I would have to work on that one. When an all-eating shame and thriftless praise after shame, how much more praise deserve thy beauty's use? This deserved that. If thou could answer, then we've got the breath on the césure. Shall sum my count, and we've got an and on the césure, and make my old excuse. To sum my count and make my old excuse. Don't do it after and, because that puts in a fake pause. To sum my account and make my... No, to sum my account, to do this and do this. Keep the and with the second stage, with the second part of the line. Proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made, Césures, when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst its cold. Okay, so there are the Césures marked. So they're the stages where the rhyming couplet, the last words, marking intersections, the breaths and the Césures. Now let's look at what this sonnet is talking about. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field. So basically, when you're as old as 40, my God, that is old. Thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Yeah, thanks for that, Shakespeare. You know, you were pretty, but by the time you're 40, you'll be ugly. Not if you've been doing yoga and going down the gym. Then being asked where all thy beauties lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days. So when someone says, I thought you were meant to be beautiful, so where is this alleged beauty? To say within thine own deep sunken eyes, we're all eating shame and thriftless praise. To say, oh well, look in my eyes, it's there. That is useless. That's no good, says Shakespeare. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou could answer? So, how much better can you... If someone says to you, I thought you were meant to be beautiful, it's better when you're older to say, well, look at my kids, aren't they beautiful? So it's another one of Shakespeare's sonnets, encouraging people to have kids. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou could answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse. So my kids bear my beauty. Proving his beauty by succession thine. So your own beauty in old age is proved by your successions, by having kids. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst its cold. So when you're old, you look at your kids and you feel young again. So it's a poem about having kids, which again, it's a taboo subject in our time where all of culture says don't have kids. And you know, you go to London or Paris or somewhere, New York or LA, where no one has kids, and they sort of look down on a lot of ordinary people who have kids, or they fetishize the having of their own kids, this perfect one child. You know, obviously by having one child you halve the human race, which is the big thing of our powers that be at the moment. And I'm victim of it. I've got no kids. Okay, finally, let's read the sonnet itself. I'll go for a slight change of viewage, should I? Maybe not. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes, we're all eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou could answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold.